Really pleased to see you. My name's Tilly. I'm the community connector for Openhand. Do come in and find a place to sit. Yes, wonderful to see you. So tonight, Open's going to talk to you about the 5 gateways. When he's finished, if you're interested, it's all encapsulated in this book, 5 Gateways, which was written quite some years ago now. We also made a documentary over 10 years ago about the 5 gateways. They're a very ancient concept and route map of a natural process for us when we're here in the human condition. A natural process by which we can ascend. So Open's going to bring that right up to date with its relevance to us here and now, living in these crazy times, and how it can help us. So enjoy, and there'll be question time at the end, so try and hold on to your questions just to let the flow of the seminar carry on. Okay, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Open.
Thank you. Firstly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming out amidst all this crazy distraction in the world. Be easy to get pulled off by some one thing or another. You know, the pandemic ends, and no sooner than it does the Ukraine start. And he thinks there's a bit of orchestration going on there somehow. Hey, look, I have a lot of compassion for the people who are suffering, but I get this sense, and I'm sure you do, that it's purposeful distraction to pull attention away from the key journey, yeah? To get us all looking out there, confused, buying into the drama and the illusion, so that we don't look in the one true place where the truth and the answers really flow from. We got some synchronicity. Synchronicities in tune.
Full on.
Indeed, isn't it?
Emotional manipulation.
Crazy. Just crazy. Just crazy.
Boogeyman, the evil,
absolutely.
Never mind to look at the real realities of what's
absolutely,
going on.
But we're not going to get distracted.
No, I'm just saying you are right, 100%. Well,
so the question is there a journey? Is there a destination? I put it to you, there's both simultaneous. Let's look at that and see what that might be. Let's look at see what it might be. I would like this to be more than just a verbal communication, because there's a lot of very awake people in the space, people who've come from different places in the UK and different constellations, no doubt, too. So I'd really love us to tune in energetically and feel. I'm working with a group of ascended master energies that I collectively call Openhand. It's not an identity. It's no icon, putting on a pedestal or anything like that. It's all about working to ground higher dimensional energies that can resonate and we can feel something deeper of ourselves. Because of course the journey is your journey, and we can reflect to each other, but it's not about one person saying, this is the truth, of course. Those days have gone. If the last 2 years taught us anything, I would say it taught us to become completely sovereign in our own beings and make up the bloody truth for ourselves, make sure we know it for ourselves. So I'm going to be sharing a perspective. I believe it passionately. You may feel that. I have researched it. I have worked with it energetically with groups around the world for maybe the last 17 years. I incarnated as a soul exchange that began in a car crash back in 2002. When I came in with tremendous visions of what I see the planet coming to in a very short period of time, which is a complete cleansing in the 3D. That's what I see coming. Some people talk about it as the event, the culmination of the galactic superwave, of the solar micronova, and the Earth's pole shift. And that will leave no stone unturned on the planet. I'm going to say that again. It will leave no stone unturned on the planet. That takes a lot of getting used to. You can hear it, but it takes a lot to work with and understand not just understand, but feel what that means. When the Earth's magnetic shield lowers, the field lowers in intensity. This is a biomagnetic body. What's this going to feel like when the poles drop and shift and flip-flop? What's it going to feel like? It's going to be full on. It's going to be absolutely full on. Reality is going to bend and shape and change, and we need to be ready for it. They know this. The shadow state knows this. That's why they classified the science back in the 1970s and censored it. Work like that Einstein and other quantum physicists have brought forwards. Crucial geology that shows that in our past history, every 12,000 years, there is this flip-flop of the poles. What's that going to do to the planet? It's going to detach. It detaches the crust from the mantle like peeling the peel off an orange. Something like that. It's what they recorded in Atlantis 12,000 years ago. And of course it's become myth and story and all of this, and we're distracted by everything, aren't we? We're distracted by all of this stuff, and it escalates every single day, where you get an app for this and an app for that. I wonder if they'll have an app for the shift. Maybe, maybe, but it'll be too late by then because it won't be working. So we need to be prepared. They know where this is going. They know what's coming. That's why they've accelerated the space race, the metaverse, the technology, the pandemic, can I say that? The pandemonium, I call it. That's why they invented it and accelerated it. That's why the media is full of the Ukraine. And look, my heart goes out to them, but it's another humongous distraction, and it will keep on going. To keep eyes and attention and energy focused out there. Because we know it needs to be in here. Because that's where the unfolding is really happening. And you know that. That's why you're here. But it's distracting millions of people. The crucial thing, absolutely crucial thing, is that even though I look into this room and I see a tremendous family of rainbow souls, all unique vibrations, all unique resonances. That's what I see. And it's bloody marvelous when we run these workshops and seminars. You see that everywhere, all around the world. Disparate places, yet all connecting by a sense, a feeling that something is accelerating, the vibration is shifting, and even though we may or may not be able to grasp it intellectually, you can feel it, right? You can feel it. That's why we're here tonight. That's why we're here. Because we can feel it. We can collectively feel something's going on. Let's try and make sense of that a little bit more. That's my aim. I've been working to make sense of it on an intellectual level. Why? Because you can realize the 5D shift? No. It's to soften and quieten the mind. To say, hey, look, it's all right. Let go. You're not running the show. The shift is running the show. So yeah, get an understanding of the concepts, but drop through the mind and feel it. Feel the energy like we can connect with in this room tonight. And that's my aim for us for an hour and a half or so, to feel that connection. And what does it say? How does it feel to you inside? That's the crucial thing. That's what I would love to get. Hey, it's a privilege that you trust me to be involved in your journey just for an hour and a half. That's a privilege. And I thank you for your trust in that. I really do. I take that with great responsibility. And so I share my truth, but I'm not sharing the truth. I don't claim that. I believe 100% what I'm sharing, but only you can know the truth for yourself. Of course you can. Yeah, I'm just saying it. I'm being clear about it. I I don't require or need anyone to believe me or take my reality on board as their truth. But what reflection can you get from what I'm sharing? What can you feel? With that in mind, just close your eyes for a few moments and just bring your attention to the breath. Nice deep inhale from the base right up through the body and the head, maybe a bit above the head, above the crown. Hold the breath a moment or so. Feel the expansion, feel the connection. And then exhale, breathe that down through the body, right back down to the base. And again, inhale up. And now as you exhale down with a nice deep sigh, just feel like you're letting go of any of that BS, that tension. Here we go, inhale up. Again, inhale up. Let's feel that sense of deep relaxation, the sense of deep embodiment. The only thing you're embodying is your own soul, nothing else. But what we can do is resonate to each other. That's my approach and purpose tonight. Softly opening your eyes, but as you do, stay connected internally. Stay with at least half your attention inside. And then you'll know if something resonates with you about what I'm saying or sharing. I'd like to start by presenting an idea, a concept, a model, a framework of the bigger picture. If we understand the big picture, we understand where Ascension is leading us, we understand what the personal journey is within that. And then we've got some key pointers. I said a moment ago that I thought there was both a journey and a destination. Actually, I think the real journey begins after you arrive at the destination. What do I mean by that? Well, the scientists and the spiritualists, shall we say, have both arrived together, which is fascinating and wonderful, at a similar concept, a similar idea, a similar experience of how the universe works. And I'd like to put up this tremendous graphic, this graphic movie that I came across of a couple of guys who designed the torus, the universal torus, and how it flows, how you have two interconnected energy fields interrelating with one another, and that relativity creating the various constructs of 3D and other dimensions that we then experience. So it's two fields, two morphing fields flowing through each other that create the relativity that crystallizes reality and our experience within it. So I'd like to put that up and then just take a look at it and see how it might relate to our own journey. Could you turn the lights off, please, Tilly, the front two? okay, I don't want to lose you in an alternate reality. I just want, it's very compelling, isn't it? I didn't want to, but I thought I'd just show you that. That's a tremendous depiction, I believe, of the universal torus. What does that mean exactly? Basically, you could consider that the universe began with a singularity, where there was just pure presence. If there was something, you always have to ask the question, where did the something come from? But you can begin with presence, the singularity, and then from that, an explosion of relativity, of awareness. Awareness of what? Something? No, because you can't get something from nothing. But you can get flows of awareness, an interrelation of those two flows, which then crystallize. The unity consciousness pulls the separation consciousness and crystallizes it into form. How does it do that? Well, then you have to question, well, what is form? You're sitting in this room on a chair, on the floor or whatever, in a body, but if you took all the space from the atoms out, there wouldn't be enough matter left to fit on a pinhead in your body. It's all space. And what's not space is quantum energy. What is quantum energy? It's consciousness. It's pure energy. Therefore, it's not matter. Matter is but an illusion, a perception of my mind, which means I can take nothing, explode it into two flows of consciousness, create crystallization into relativity of form, and get you sat there on the chair or me stood here on the floor. But of course, this is mainly perception. That's crucial, that's important to understanding everything. A simple rudimentary idea of who you are in relation to physicality, who you are in relation to materiality or separation consciousness. You are a flow, I put it to you, a flow of awareness in relation to separation. I can depict that, to simplify things, in 2D. So here, imagine I take my torus, which looks like an apple. Imagine I take that. So what they've depicted was a continually morphing and reshaping apple, essentially, with the singularity down the center, a vortex, and the layers of the apple. If I put it here, then I've got the layers of the apple that spread out like waves, ripples on a pond, and create densities, physicalities of experience. We could say that. And flowing within it, unity consciousness, which we can call souls. We can call them souls. A unique wave for each of us. And I put it to you that what we really are is the singularity itself. And of course, when you transcend this separated identity and you hit that pure, immaculate experience that nobody is here, a bit scary at first. I mean, I'm standing here, I don't think what I'm saying. I don't have to think what I'm saying. It's curious when I watch myself that I almost laugh at it. I'm laughing at it because I'm not thinking about what to say. I don't have that problem. It just happens. I just drop back into the source, and from there it flows. If I was a footballer, I'd be able to bend it round a wall or dribble it, or if I was, a pole vaulter, I'd be good at that, or whatever it is, or an artist, or a painter, or a singer. The best ones, they flow from presence. They come from the nothing. They've surrendered into the nothing. Maybe they don't even realize they're doing it. I was hearing an interview with one of the 1966 World Cup winners because I was fascinated. If anyone's really good at what they do, whether it be art, music, or sport, have they actually touched the presence? Is that what it is? Are we seeing somebody who's actually dropped into the singularity and doesn't even realize it? And then they were interviewing this guy, maybe he was the midfielder, and he was known because he could dribble the ball around people like they weren't there, right? And the interviewer said to him, he said, "Do you ever get nervous before a big game like the World Cup?" He says, "When I'm standing in the tunnel, yes, I'm really nervous. But when I get on the football field," and this is what he said, this is what he said, "when I get on the football field, it's like there's nobody here, and the ball just dribbles itself. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This is on the BBC of all, you know. Yeah, it was like there's no one here. That's the point. You drop into the presence, it's like there's no one here. It's a bit scary at first, because as you're dropping back into it, it's like, bloody hell, who am I now? Jeez, who am I now? And then how do I make a choice from here? How do I live from here? Wow, that's extraordinary. Or else you're falling in, it becomes so blissful because you're letting go of the separation. You want to own the bliss. Of course, both will stop you from being there, because this is neither blissful, it's neither sad, it's neither up, it's neither down, happy, love, or anything else. It is purity, pure presence, non-manifest, just simple, eternal. I can't even say isness, because it isn't. It's non-manifest presence. But something happens with presence, doesn't stay as it is. There is that emergence that we saw in the video, the beautiful emergence of energy awareness. Yeah? And so you get this crystallization happening of form. So you get the separation, which the scientists call positive entropy, yes, disordering force, but you get the pull back in, which they call neg entropy. Wow, where do they come up from these bloody terms? Neg entropy, it's unity consciousness, it's love. When we look in each other's eyes and we see past the separation, and we're sitting there looking at each other, kind of figuring each other out. What is this guy on about? Is he nuts? And where's he come from? And what's he doing? And likewise, what's your journey been? And, you know, what have you suffered? And where have you traveled? And all of these things. We're looking in each other's eyes, and we're all unique and separate, but something unites us, right? Something unites us, an experience of unity consciousness, right? And we each have a different flow of that, of course, and we can call it soul. When we explode, if we likened each one of these arms to a unique soul, and we blew it up, we expanded out, we could depict it like this. So what we have is, we have the presence of the singularity, so the core of the apple going down this way, a soul flowing out through 11 dimensions. Why 11? Well, I've drawn it as 11 because that's what I experience. But the quantum physicists also say there are 11, so there might be. When I get to the 11th, I'll know, you'll know, we'll know, right? You'll know for sure. Might be another one by the time you get there, who knows? So for now, we can consider that there might be 11. So the soul is flowing out from the source, but when it gets down into the lower densities, I didn't draw the numbers on here, but it's from 1 to 11. When it gets down into the lower densities, physical, emotional, mental, karmic, and the soul is flowing through the chakras that's going down through reality, all connected into the singularity, it fragments. Why? Because it gets attached to physicality. I was doing a bow into the lotus position and twanged some of the ligaments in my knee. I can still feel them. And I know this is an illusion, but it feels real, right? Or when you get hungry, it feels real. Or when you get sick, I had COVID, which is really EMF. Of course, we all know that. Well, I think we do. Then you feel pretty, I was pretty hammered by it, right? Actually, it was tremendous healing. Cleared out a whole load of old DNA. So I'm actually very grateful. But when you're in it, right, it feels real, doesn't it? The physical feels real. Like when you're in relationship and something goes wrong in relationship, you think of all the challenges we've had in relationships these last 2 years. In families, where some people are going with the story and others are not. You think of that, what's gone on, the challenges you've faced, people who've been jabbed and others who haven't, you know, and the conflict that's often caused. On an emotional scale, that's been bloody full on, right, for all of us. So you're going to get challenges, of course, on the emotional level. The mental level, the level of programming, propaganda. They've taken science and they turned it on its head. You know, a mask doesn't stop spread of virus, for example. We know that. We know these things. We know a lot of other things. That's a simple one. Like, is it even transmissible? That's another one. Where's it coming from? I believe it's coming from EMF. But the less said. We don't need to get into that tonight. But the point is, extraordinary amount of programming. Extraordinary. You walk into a restaurant. Can I say this? I don't know if I'll push a few buttons. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. You walk into a restaurant and you've got to wear your mask. But you sit down in the restaurant, take it off and eat. Is it just me? Am I on another planet? Am I the one who's crazy? It doesn't make sense, does it? Not in anyone's book does that make sense. Surely it doesn't. Maybe I do it out of respect. Maybe. But we don't even have to do it now, and yet there's still people doing it. Okay. Conditioning. That's what happens. Mental programming. We don't challenge it. Or it's easy to get locked into behavioral patterns. Right? So what does this do to the soul? The soul then essentially fragments into those behavioral patterns, into that reactivity, the pain, the discomfort, the fear, and all of this. It fragments. And when it fragments, it detaches and creates a false self, a bunch of programs. So if you're living in fear or attachment in relationship, fear of some outcome happening, fear of what's going to happen, because of the Ukraine, for example. Is there going to be a nuclear war, for example? These kinds of things. The false self is constantly trying to protect itself from some kind of breakdown, and so it creates these, what we might call the pain body, the false self pain body. So it goes into pain when it triggers the fragmentation of the soul, be it emotionally, mentally, physically, or even karmically. Because, of course, we're firing off karma, past life karma, like it's going out of fashion through all of this situation. To me, this is a reenactment of a lot of things that happened on Sirius 120 million years ago. And there are people in this room who were there, I know for sure. Yes, there's a lot playing out again here, now. So the soul fragments, creates a false self, a pain body, and then because of the pain, the discomfort, placates the pain, either with, classic one, distraction, distraction, being pulled into this. I'm sitting on a plane going over to Australia to run a retreat. There's a young lady sat next to me. She can only be like 21, 22. Through the whole flight, it's a long flight to Australia, right? She's got a phone in her hand like this. The screen's switched off. At times she's looking out the window and she's doing this. The screen's switched off. Oh my. Talk of metaverse. Wow. And that being the design to pull people in. So we've got distraction, but what does that do? It takes your mind from the pain of quietness, the pain of boredom, the pain of just being able to sit with yourself and be awesomely okay with it for 12 hours, maybe. Wow. Next door to me, there's a family of 5, couple and 3 or 4 kids. They're maybe 4 to 6 in that kind of age range. Of course, it's difficult for a 4 to 6-year-old on a 12-hour flight, They're getting crazy, right? So what do? Every couple of minutes, they pull out the bag of Snickers or Mars bars and give them a Mars bar or a Snicker. What is that doing to their consciousness? What is it doing? Yeah? It says, every time you feel some kind of discomfort, pop some sugar, right? Or watch a video game or whatever it is. This is our society. It's so bloody effective at it. You have to ask, was it designed that way? Of course it was. Yes, that's the metaverse that they hope to are pulling, maybe a billion people or more into it, maybe more. That's what's going on right now. To me, that's what the juice was all about too, changing genetics to pull people in. But hey, that's just an opinion, right? I don't have the science that I can back it up with, but I just feel it somehow. So you've got a false self being created and people being pulled into that, the soul being pulled in. When the soul fragments and the false self gets created to some degree, then what happens is, instead of you being the singularity, you are now a duality. You are now this in relation to what the soul was, because some aspect of true self, the soul, is still there, but there is also a bloody good deal of false self happening in the behaviorisms that we undertake. So now, you're not being this that you really are, the presence, but you're being an identity. What's the problem with that? Massive, huge, right? Because if we go back to this, it's like you are an anchor in the universe. It's like you're putting down an anchor and saying, this is me, this is how I need to live, that's how I'm afraid of living, or the outcome I'm afraid of. And you're making that statement, and now the whole universe is bending around that distortion. The space-time continuum is bending around that and challenging it. That's why our reality is ultimately falling apart, because it's a karmic distortion. It formed for karmic lessons to happen, and it's now being challenged. It's now being challenged by the realigning flow. The torus is basically starting to challenge it. That's why there's instability in everything, in every construct. That's why we need not to fear change, because all realities will transform, will break down and transform into something else. That's what we're engaged in now. We're engaged in the breaking down of this reality. The shadow state knows it. That's because they have access to the science. That's why they're ramping up all of their distractions, their agenda. That's why they're channeling people, taking huge chances and channeling huge groups of people into this metaverse to do what? Take them off planet. That's where they're going. That's what they want to do, to somewhere else, because they can see what's coming. That's one way out. Actually, it's no way out, and I don't believe they'll make it. To another planet. Yeah. In 2019, at the beginning of 2020, NASA were actually promoting, their agenda of going off-world, off-planet, first to the moon, then to Mars, and then probably further afield than that.
Elon Musk is very open about it.
Pardon?
Elon Musk is
Yes, yes.
Let's get to Mars in 10 years.
Yes,
Not
huge.
just Musk, the Chinese, the
Yes.
Russians, everyone's moving out.
A huge amount of energy moving toward it, and resources and everything else.
Sure, massive.
Because they know what's coming.
Yeah, of course they
They know what's coming.
do. Well, they think they do.
They
I
think
don't
they-
know it all at all.
No. I agree.
They don't, yeah.
I agree. What I would put to you is that we are, in the spiritual mainstream, I won't say we, I'll say spiritual mainstream, these last 2 years and currently, is making a fundamental mistake. And the fundamental mistake is focusing too much on the shadow agenda. And that's pulling everybody's attention into it, inadvertently. What I would say to you is this, from my perspective, observation, is that it's the shift of consciousness of the planet. It is the Earth restoring the torus, because we all have it. You have it, the planet has it, solar system, galaxy has this toroidal form. The Earth is reclaiming that from this humongous distortion which has pinned it into a particular frequency and lowered vibration. The Earth is extracting from that and restoring, working to restore itself to a more pristine vibrational state. And because it's doing that, if we liken this to the pull, to the flow of Gaia's consciousness, where she's reconnecting with the main flow of the torus itself, then as you pull on this karmic tethering that's gotten fragmented into the lower densities, as you pull on it, then what happens is whatever you've got going on the inside manifests and projects into the outer like a cinema projector. If I pull tension on the inside, it manifests into the external. Likewise, if I activate soul consciousness on the inside, what often gets missed is that I trigger the shadow at the same time. You can't just activate one divorced from the other. And that, to me, is often missed in spiritual mainstream. Is that everyone's aiming to feel good and be up and blissful and higher dimensional, but as you activate soul frequency, then you also project out your own shadow, your karmic shadow. Because it comes active, it triggers. And therefore it needs to be processed. It's the tethering on the balloon. As the balloon is trying to rise, you have to process out the tethering, the attachment. As the energy of the earth rises, she projects out the karmic tethering. And also for humanity, humanity's lack of sovereignty, for example, giving up sovereign choices to another consciousness, which is a pattern which has gone back tens of thousands of years. So humanity gave up sovereignty to the gods, for example, maybe in Egypt, Isis, Osiris, this kind of thing, gave up sovereignty to some godhead as opposed to their own soul. And so that creates karma, and as the energy of the earth rises, that gets projected into our reality, and it manifests, creates a shadow to take sovereignty away, to challenge the individual. They couldn't take sovereignty if we all just stood up and said, hey, bugger off. Look at the convoys in Canada. My God, they have no power if everybody stands up and says, no, I'm going with what feels right. At some point, we're going to do that. You know, the convoys, they may have gone away, but the energy that inspired them has not. It's buzzing around the planet. It's looking for another outlet, and it will find it very soon. Be interesting to see what it rises in, but it will come up again, because the consciousness of humanity can see the ridiculousness, the fraud, the bankruptcy of this system. And enough people now are saying, no more. Who believes the BBC? You know, they put out news on the Ukraine. What can you believe? Nothing. It's all propaganda, right? So it's stirring up soul sovereignty, challenge, integration. You know, it's triggering your fears, your concerns, your worry. You know, I get people asking me, is there going to be a nuclear war? Well, I don't believe so, because they can't control that. But the question is not if it does or not. The question is, what does it trigger in you? What is it triggering you, and why have we collectively manifested this? Because you're all here because you know some key things in common. Like you are not physical, right? But the moment we get challenged on that, the moment we feel pain, or we're in fear or suffering for this physicality, that's when we fragment and identify. That's when we make the illusion real. And so, there is the opportunity. Because if you can see, feel, sense what's triggering you, you can now look at that and say, why? What am I attached to? What am I afraid of? What outcome do I think I need or I'm afraid of accepting? If I'm courageous enough to say, when anything challenging happens to you, any problem in your life, if you can be courageous enough to say, why did I manifest that? That's the most empowering thing you can ever do. Not blame the situation or pray for a different one or use the law of attraction to manifest something you prefer. Who would prefer? Only the ego. Only the ego that can't accept. How about saying, yes, I created that. Why? Because it triggers me in the sacrum. Because it triggers me in the solar plexus. Whoa, why? Because I can't state my own truth. My throat tightens because I won't speak. My heart gets tight because I feel judgment, or I feel self-judged, I feel alienated. How often do rainbow souls say they feel alienated? So things get triggered, but it's not about then trying to make it better by changing the circumstances, because all you'll ever do is recreate them. Because the inner creates the outer. Figure out why you identified in the first place. Okay, so here's to me is probably the most empowering thing you can ever do in any given situation. Don't try to change it. First ask, why did I create it? And the answer is, where do I get tied? Where do I get attached? What am I afraid of? What outcome can I accept or think I need? Because the one in you doesn't need any of this. The one in you is fearlessly flowing, expressing, animating. It's not picking a particular reality because it's creating everything. That's the one in you. And what do you do when you start applying the law of attraction, for example, intentionally, or set affirmations? How much is, I was watching someone talking about setting affirmations on, big YouTube channel, tens of thousands of followers. Who's setting the affirmation? Who? Does the one need to affirm anything? The one is the one. It doesn't need to tell itself it's the one. If you need to tell yourself you're this or you're that, it's because you're not that. So you're inadvertently derailing yourself, creating an identity plastered on top of the limitation. Figure out why you feel depressed. Let's take depression. No one wants to be depressed, right? Maybe you do, I don't know, but no one really wants to be depressed. But what if I said to you, let's take this and blow this up into the torus, and now here's your true self sitting in the torus. What if at the core of depression is such a coherency, such a presence, such an awesome okayness, such a density that it feels like depression but isn't? And that coherency is unshakable by anything. What if the most powerful entity you can imagine gets sucked into that vortex and is torn apart by it, broken down because of the control? That feels like depression to an ego. But in the presence, when you're in the presence, it just is. So we're trying to process out these states without understanding why we create them. What are they pointing towards? Who are you at the core, at the source of all of this? So the fragmentation has happened. The question is then, how do we come back to being the presence flowing as a soul, which is what I maintain the true self is. And this is the journey of ascension. This, to me, is where the 5 gateways come in. What are they? Let's look at them. Let's move on to them. Here you are then, being the full self, okay, and have to some degree disconnected from the soul, right? So the first thing is that you start to realize there is this other sense of self, this interconnectedness, and you get it at various times. Maybe when you're in nature, maybe when you're breathing, meditation, maybe when you're painting or playing music or whatever, dancing, maybe when you're in company, these kinds of things. You start to connect with something beyond this. And of course, that would be what we can call the soul. People describe it as interconnected, love, joy, timelessness, these kinds of things, will, drive, commitment as well, these kinds of things. So the first gateway is getting over a sore throat. That appeared from somewhere. Obviously a bit of energy moving. Who's got a sore throat? I did have this tendency to empathize. Anyway, the first gateway is the connection into the soul and being able to feel it most of the time. And when you can feel the soul most of the time, then what that means is the fragmentation, the soul has started to integrate internally so that you can feel it. And there's a marked shift where you can feel it pretty much not all of the time, most of the time. We kind of still get lost at times, but you have a way of reconnecting. When you're at that point, that would signify the level 1 or stage 1 awakening where there's enough soul integration to feel it a good deal of the time. So we call that Gateway 1. And this is, you can see these patterns, by the way, these shifts in previous masters, say the Buddha, for example, if you read his story, you can see it, of course, really defined and clear in the story of Jesus. And whether you believe he existed or not, doesn't matter. The fabulous thing about that story is when you look at it, you can see the 5 shifts, the 5 transitions of consciousness that went on. That's the one thing they didn't encode or cover up, to my mind. So the first gateway, then, is connecting with the mainstream of the soul. And the more you then integrate, it then leads to Gateway 2, which I've defined as the baptism, which means a baptism as the disciple of your own soul. What do I mean by this? If we relate it to degree of soul integration inside, then the soul is progressively integrating. Let's say you're doing your spiritual work, your meditation, you're doing your internal purification, your connection with nature and all of this, then you're progressively integrating soul inside. And we could say, here's the ego and here's the soul, metaphorically. The soul's progressively integrating, and you hit this point where both are in balance and both are pulling in opposite directions, and your life starts falling apart. It falls apart because it's almost like you become incapable of making choices. The ego is pulling in one direction, the soul in the other. You're at the point where it's time to transition completely to soul-led decision-making in life. But when I say that, what I mean is, it's a moment-by-moment deep consciousness choice. It's not tuning in every now and then, or doing meditations through the day. It's a sitting there, realizing the whole of this reality is an illusion, and you want to be informed from the one true place of truth, and that is your own soul. And you'll wait for whatever's going to happen before you take that choice. And that signifies the shift of realignment. You're following soul-led choices. And that would define the realignment. I remember working with this in this incarnation, and I was moving to Glastonbury. I felt a strong pull to come here, looking for a place to live, and needed a 3-bedroom house. I was with my partner and her child, and we wanted a 3rd bedroom for a meditation studio to give workshops and this kind of thing. So we walked into Cooper and Tanner up the high street, estate agents. I said, we're looking for a 3-bedroom house, to the guys at the back on the desk. And they said, they laughed. The first thing was, they laughed, right? They said, you'll be lucky. They're like proverbial rocking horse doodle, right? This is what they said. They're laughing at me. And I looked at the guy and I said, look, I only want one, just one. I don't want a whole load of them, just one. That'll do. And he looked at me quizzically, couldn't quite get that one. He looked at me quizzically. Anyway, I turned to walk out, and an estate agent walks next to me, stands there, and shouts to the people at the back, "Oh, I've just taken on a 3-bedroom house." Literally stood there. I said, "Oh, where is it?" "Around the corner in Lambrook Street." "Can I go and have a look?" "Yes." "When would you like to go?" "How about now?" "Okay, let's go." She turned around, we walked out. We went to this house on 9 Lambrook Street. I work with a group of 9, right? Group of 9 Ascended Masters, right? Okay, it's the perfect bloody house. The top floor, the 3rd bedroom, has been done out as a meditation studio. In the back garden, it's just a little brick yard. There's a statue of the Shiva the size of that wall. You know, we've been working with the Shiva energy. "Yeah, we'll take this one. I think this one's for us." Right? So we took it on, but the problem was, didn't have much income. It's back at the beginning of Openhand, there wasn't much income. But nevertheless, we took it on. It was 700 quid a month at the time, which was a lot of money back then, 205, still is now. Anyway, the story goes on. Gets to the end of the month, it's Friday evening, the rent is due on Monday, and there's no money in the account. So I'm saying, show me. What do we do now? Show me. So the feeling was, and the inquiry was, first I got a flash of my car. Well, okay, why am I looking at my car? A flash of knowing. And it was. And then the question triggered. So you're getting higher knowing first. You're getting the spontaneous flash of higher knowing. And then the pull is already starting to take me outside to have a look at the car. And then as I'm walking there, lower mind is saying, "Oh, we don't need a car, let's sell it. How much is it worth?" "It's worth 700 quid. Okay, maybe it'll work." But then, of course, separated Homo sapiens self comes in and says, "You'll never sell the car over the weekend," right? Yeah, right? The self-doubting, questioning Homo sapiens, right? In you, in me, down here. So you'll never sell the car over the weekend. Shut up. Right? So I'll go outside and I'll think, right, I'm going to sell this car. I don't know how. Maybe put it on Auto Trader. I'll take a photograph. Okay, so I get the camera out. This is very fascinating. This part of the realignment is very fascinating. And you'll watch it, you'll see it in yourself because Homo sapiens self strategizes. This is how we have done things, so this is how we're going to do things, right? So it strategizes. It forms plans based on the reality it has come to know. That's what Homo sapiens self does. But this is spontaneous, pure magic. Spontaneous, pure creation, pure manifestation of the quantum field. But we have to be really trusting in that. Really trusting, because it's going to take you right out on the edge. Yeah, in everything. Relationships, how you live, how you pay your rent, the whole 9 yards. It's asking you the question all the time, who are you? Are you a physical Homo sapiens being? Or are you the one? Right? And that's the choice we make in every single moment. Right? So I'm going outside with my camera because I'm strategizing, take a photograph, put it on an Auto Trader, take a photograph, go to take it, and a dark cloud goes overhead. Oh, that's interesting. So I have to wait. Right? So I come to take it with the clouds passed over. I go to press the button, the batteries have run out. Okay. So synchronicity also happens when the shit hits the fan too, not when it's good stuff, but the bad stuff, right? But synchronicity nonetheless. So maybe I'm not supposed to photograph the car. Show me. Get in the car and drive. What do you mean, get in the car and drive? Homo sapiens is going crazy by now, right? What do you mean, get in the car and drive? I want to sell the car. Get in the car and drive. So I'm getting in the car and driving. Right, where am I going now? Show me. Homo sapiens goes crazy, doesn't he? When he doesn't know where to go. When he has to sit in the unknown, heaven forbid. Heaven forbid. Right, so I'm going down Lambrook Street. Don't go left. Go second left up Dodd Lane. I thought, I'm going towards the Shekin Ashram, what used to be the Shekin Ashram. I'm going up there. I think, why am I going up here? Homo sapiens always has to know why. Always has to know why. In front of me, A car does a U-turn with JC written on the number plate. And higher knowing says, follow him, follow him. If JC wants to help you sell the car, then why not? Why not? You know, this is the dialogue. So because I'm bloody crazy. Because I'm bloody crazy, I turn around and follow him, right? I follow this car down Dodd Lane, get to the end, turn right, back where I was living, turn left, down the high street. I'm going down the high street, and suddenly this car pulls out in front of me with both its flashing lights on. Boom, something. It triggers something inside. It triggers something to true self. Now this is the difference between active attention and setting your intention. Who sets intention? Only an identity sets intention. The one doesn't have intention. The one creates. Don't try, do. Do or not do. There's the one. The one creates. Only an identity has to set intention. Another challenge to spiritual mainstream stuff. But I'm going to do it because it's bullshit, sorry. And you will find out if you're trying it. Okay, so what is the one want? It's active attention. Where is the flow going? Maybe there's a reason that car pulled out as I was passing by. And the feeling pull, higher knowing activates, and then it comes through the heart. Feeling pull the car in. Homo sapiens is going, why are we parking here? Soul is going, who cares? Who cares? Pull in. But I want to sell my car. It's not about selling the car. Here's the thing. Here's the thing to get. You may be directed toward a manifestation, but it is not about the manifestation. It's not about the crystallization. It's not about the house, the car, the job. It's not about any of these things. They are the effect of expression. The effect of expression. The one isn't thinking about what to create. It's creating. It's the effect of actualization. The flow is taking you to actualization of self, the full revelation of self in any given circumstance, but it will create things from that. But you don't have to effort to create whatever it is. It will effortlessly create. Here's another, to me, a big failing or triggering or derailing of the spiritual mainstream. I pull in. Anyway, the story goes on. I pull in. Show me, what should I do now? Put a price on it. What? Here? Homo sapiens' mind is still questioning, right? What? Here? No one's going to see it. This is Glastonbury. In any case, nobody's got any money in Glastonbury, right? Put a price on it. So I get my pen out, piece of paper, 700 quid. 700 quid is due on Monday. The car cost 700 quid a year before, right? So I put it in the window. This is Friday evening. Saturday morning, I get a phone call. Seen your car, mate. Can I come and talk to you about it? Yeah, sure. Come round. I'm just around the corner. So the guy shows up. We open the door, and here's what it's about. As soon as we see each other and we look in each other's eyes, it's like we're transported to another reality. Back into a past life where we've journeyed and traveled before. It's about actualization of self, expression of self. So we sat down at the kitchen table and we talked for 2 hours about everything you can imagine, including the kitchen sink, but not the car. Not the car, right? Because it's not about the car. The car is the product of expression, not the reason for it. At 2 hours, we both look at each other, the conversation stops, and we look at each other at the same time and say, what about the car? The next thing was priceless. He reaches in his pocket, he pulls out a brown envelope with £700 in it and puts it on the table. I said, don't you want to drive it? He said, no. I said, why not? He said, because I trust you. We journeyed through past lives. Why would he not? Why would he not? So he takes the keys and he takes the car, and I've got 700 quid for the rent. This is unintentional manifestation from the One. Why? Because it's meant to happen. Because it's meant to happen. Not because I'm intentioning or struggling or efforting to make it happen. There is no I. That's an illusion. Why enforce the illusion? Why not just unravel it? Why did I create the shadow? What is true in it? What is the expression of truth in it? To me, this is the realignment. And so it guides us to a realization that it's not about the outcome. It's about who you are. And that manifests the outcome. And the outcome, the mirror you create, is then harmonious, a harmonious reflection of what you're being. And when you're looking in the mirror and it feels good and it feels right, what is that worth? What is that worth? Priceless, right? Priceless. I don't care whether you've got a mansion, a yacht, or blah, blah, blah. That you can't put a value on. It's priceless. And that's what we need to be coming to, I would say, I would reflect to you. That way of living, creating, because it's being invested in the external that's got us into this mess in the first place. By tuning into the soul and following it and going along with it, it's going to take us on an incredible journey. An incredible journey. And the next gateway that it brings you to is the Transfiguration. What is that? Here, on this chart, what's happened is the lower self has been separated from the higher self. So we've created this false self identity stuck in this illusion. When you follow the soul, it's going to start unraveling all of that stuff. It's going to take you into all your fears, all your concerns, all the places you'd rather not go, and it's going to manifest a whole lot. The dark night of the soul, more than one night. Plenty. Whole relationship with it. But it's going to take you into all those places. This is where fearlessness is necessary. Courage. If not fearlessness, then courage, at least to confront it. And we're going to confront a hell of a lot that's coming up right now. It's going to accelerate. It's necessary. It's necessary because fear is what's holding and limiting us, and it's separating lower self from higher self. If you're tuning in to some guidance which is beyond you or outside of you, then sure enough, the lower self is separated from the higher self. But as these barriers break down, then what happens is the higher self starts to integrate here and now, and you're becoming that. You become that. And so you're not tuning into anything outside of yourself. And at one magic moment, that separation between lower and higher explodes, dissolves. This as an identity dissolves, full Kundalini activation happens, and now you just, plugged in. And it's just flowing through you and carrying you. Of course, many in this room have experienced that. At least to some degree. It can happen in varying degrees until it fully unleashes. But that would be then the transfiguration. That's when lower and higher self are integrated. But it's not the end of the story, because what happens after that is an activation of the karma, all of the past life karma that brought us here. And when we get into that, then it comes up in waves. It comes up in wave after wave after wave after wave, because what's happening now is the energy of the soul is integrated and is ascending and goes into the next density, and so activates all of the karmic past life memories. They'll come up wave upon wave, trigger, activate, and then are there to be processed through. By equalizing with them, allowing them, expressing them, going into your deepest fears, worries, concerns, and allowing yourself to soften into them. To give an example, I was working with a lady, and we were doing some meditations, and she came up to me, she was in her 50s, and she said, look, meditation doesn't work for me very, very well. It was deep conscious body work we were doing. It doesn't work for me very well. I've never had a spiritual experience. And I said to her, well, just give it a try, see how it goes, you never know, right? So we do this deep consciousness body work, soul motion, and we're about a minute in, 2 minutes in, and she comes over to me and she says, I've got a problem. What's the problem? My head's on the floor in the corner over there. Okay. Okay. And I was thinking, all right, stay calm. Stay calm. And the first thing that comes is, go and pick the head up and put it back on. So, I'm serious. So I took her over and I said, we're going to pick the head up and we're going to even out the energy field. As I'm picking up the head, I can see her past life. She's been beheaded, right? Guillotined in 1500s or whenever it was. The interesting thing was, the fascinating thing about this was that all her life, her nerve endings had given her trouble. They'd triggered and were triggering all her nerve endings. And no matter what medication she'd taken, no matter what practice, treatment, or whatever, they couldn't stop it. Why? Because when she'd been, chopped through, the soul went out of body but left a fragment in the body. So the soul is still feeling the shaking of the body as it's looking down. So it's above it but also in it. So the jittering of the body is causing that memory which is stored in the karmic field. Okay, so she reincarnates. That fragment is now jittering through the nerve endings, so she can't heal it. We regress her into the situation, it's gone. Gone. She had it all her life. One karmic regression, gone. The whole 9 yards. And this is karma. And we have loads of it to go through, unfortunately. But each challenge is a tremendous breakthrough, beautiful breakthrough. It leads me on to a question that I'd like to pose. And this is a big part of understanding, coming to terms with, and processing karma. And I'd like to pose this question to everybody. I don't know why the image has gone off, but here we go. I'd like to ask this question just to contemplate for a moment. Maybe you might find it a little unpalatable, but what do you think your deepest wound is? If you sit there for a moment and contemplate that, what do you always come back to or often come back to? What's your deepest wound?
Being separate.
Pardon?
Being separate.
Yeah, what else? What other people? Being separate? What other?
Mostly safety. Keep going. Everybody same place. Don't feel safe.
Don't feel safe. Okay, that's one too. Yeah. Deepest wound. Other people.
Not good enough.
Not good enough. Big one. Big one. Big one. What about relationships?
I think that come back to safety, because if you don't feel safe in the first place, then nothing else can come from there, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes, indeed. Here are some of the typical things that come up in our retreats and workshops time and time and time again. Abandonment. Feeling abandoned. Feeling abandoned by God is a big one. Why would someone have to endure, feel the sense of being abandoned by God? Why? Because, it's the best one. Because here's my full self, here's my true self, sitting in the singularity, sitting in the vortex, the core of the universe. Right? To come to that, I have to become the singularity. Therefore, whoever has been with me on the journey up to that point will no longer be with me. I feel abandoned because I have to sink into the singularity and let go of everything and everyone. It feels like abandonment, which is why a lot of people tend to manifest or go through the feeling sense of abandonment. It's tough, yes, but it's allowing to come into that deep sense of singular presence inside and not needing anything external. So abandonment is a big one that people process. Another one is betrayal. Whoa, why betrayal? Because here I am flowing as a soul, and I have a unique path, just as you all do, right? And if we put it on this schematic, then we're all flowing, we've all got unique journeys, and those journeys must be unique or there's no relativity, there's no experience. So each of us has a unique journey. There's at some point on this journey to truly be the soul, and therefore to truly be the one, is to be completely honoring your journey. Yet, in the ego, we make promises to others that we can't actually keep. Till death us do part, for example, is a classic one. We can't actually keep them. If you're coming from the ego, the number of times we try to placate the other person's ego because we're afraid of how they'll react. But you can't keep committing to that. And that's why at some point it will feel like when you follow completely your path, it may feel like a betrayal to the other because you're not honoring what the ego had committed to, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a relationship. You can't honor it. The soul can't because the soul is on a unique journey. So often it creates the sense of betrayal. Someone said they would do something, committed to something, but didn't honor it. And it feels like I've been betrayed. But really, who is betraying who? We are betraying ourselves because we're handing power over to the other. I would invite you to consider that. So we're actually betraying ourselves. Aloneness, because we're in this tremendous universe of multiplicity of form, but at some point you must sink back, fall back into the presence. You are the one. There is nothing else beyond that. That's the experience of it. Okay, it's a paradox. You have this multiplicity of form, you're flowing as a soul, and at the same time, you've dropped back into presence. Both at the same time. So you're having that feeling of presence and you're expressing. Now when you drop back into the presence, it's like, shit, there is only me. Yeah, there's that kind of thought, feeling process goes on. That precipitates aloneness. And the only way to work it through is to sit in it and work with the contractions around it, in meditation, for example. Next one. Oh, here's a big one. Relationships. Whoa, relationships. Very tremendously, forging of the soul, but tremendously triggering. Why? Because again, what we do is we form these rigid external relationships based on expectation and need of what the other should be. When your true relationship, I put to you, my truth, I put to you, the true relationship is you as a soul with the one. There's the true relationship that then gets reflected externally, and I might walk side by side or parallel with someone for a while. But there is my true relationship, this one. And so I form these fixed and rigid relationships. Now here's the interesting thing. Often when two people relate, where there's a false self, they're actually not relating to each other, but they're relating to the expectations, needs, desires they have of the other. And an energy body forms between the two. What they're actually relating to is the energy body, not the other. That often happens. And so the invitation is to break down those layers of judgment in relationship so that it's more free-flowing. To me, non-judgmental of the other means I can be in a place where I'm allowing the other to be completely as they feel to be in any given moment. And then that's truly non-judgmental. So to me, the true relationship is this one. And that gets manifested externally and reflected externally. Relationships is a huge wound that people experience to let go of. I'm not saying not be in a relating experience, by the way. I'm saying not to be rigid and fixed and attached in them, or expectant of the other to be a certain way, or needy of them to be a certain way. That's what I'm saying. And here's a big one. Alienation. Alienation. Not feeling like you belong. Not feeling like you fit in. Feeling ostracized. Put your hand up if you've ever felt that. Whole room? Yeah. Not feeling like you fit in. Being judged for what you are or how you are. And not feeling like you fully express yourself. Alienation. Why? Why do these things happen? Because we are unique beings. We are from different places in the cosmos. We are bringing those energies forth. But to this point, we've been forced into a box of how we're expected to be. And that comes with a lot of people carry that wound. A lot of people carry that wound. What are we going to do with this? How are we going to work with this? Well, of course, to me, in spiritual mainstream, the traditional thinking is, anything that's bloody uncomfortable, we're going to drop like hot coals, right? I'm going to drop like hot coals. I'm saying the completely opposite. I'm saying your deepest wound is your cross to bear and your greatest opportunity. Let's take alienation, right? Let's say I don't fit in any group that I come across or find, any family, any team. That's me, that's my experience, except one team that's coming together now. But I've felt alienated from every team, group, family I've ever been in. When I woke up and made the transition I did, I lost every relationship, everyone, including close biological family. Every single one broke, shattered. I felt completely alienated. I was even hospitalized because of it, put in a psych ward because I was having unusual experiences, shall we say. So did I feel alienated? You bet. But that's a tremendous opportunity to forge soul. And not just forge soul, but find those tremendous rainbow qualities and features that we all have. And so carrying that cross, for me, I reached that point where I felt, fuck this. I don't care what another person thinks of me. I really don't. Who's booming? Someone's booming, I think it's upstairs. I really don't care what anybody else thinks about me. What kind of liberation is that? I can stand here, I love you all, but it doesn't matter to me what you think of me. What matters is what I think. There's the measure. But also it's done something else. What it said to me is this. It said, look, if you feel to do this, if you feel to express this or that way, do it. Just do it. And that's my encouragement, that's my encouragement is when we feel alienated, for example, then it gives us the capacity to challenge and be free enough to fully express yourself. And so that's what I mean is when you contemplate your deepest wound, is not just to simply set it down or try to get rid of it, but carry it until you got the gift from it. Then you'll transcend it, and then you can put it down. And then you're completely awesomely okay with it. So that, to me, is probably something that we're each going to be carrying, and it underlies the very base layer of karma. Base layer of karma. So that would be Gateway 4, and then it brings us to resurrection. So, when you've integrated the karma, basically the soul is now free to infuse all the other bodily vehicles of expression, all of these, and to animate them. So that's called the resurrection, because what it does, it animates on all those various vehicles. It brings them alive, it brings them active, it brings them awake. And so that's what's called the resurrection. Now, interesting at this point is that even though you have gone through the other densities, physical, emotional, mental, karmic, even though you've gone through them, you may well find that you go through those layers again with a deeper embodiment. For example, I've got injuries coming up my knees that were of the previous life now, because the soul's coming in even deeper and suddenly triggered them. And so you're embodying and going deeper. And to me then, the ascension process, this is why I said there's a destination and a journey and a destination. The journey to me is from the false self into the torus, into the vortex, and becoming that. To me, that is the journey through the 5 gateways. And then when you're in it, the true journey begins from there, because the soul is flowing from there. So here's the interesting thing. There's a journey that pulls you, that takes you toward that, the full embodiment of it. But as it's embodied, now there's a flow from there. The fascinating thing is that the change that I've experienced is that when you're in it, it's no longer like you're chasing down manifestations or trying to reach them. You're sitting in the vortex, and you're starting to see future landing now crystallizing around you. It's starting to shape around you. And really what happens is then you're just reaching out and it's landing. So I can remember when I recently moved into Glastonbury the second time, I was wondering where to live. Difficult to get a flat in Glastonbury, right? Difficult to get a flat. So I'm looking on Airbnb. I'm looking at where to go and stay the weekend so I can do some flat hunting. And I go up onto the streets, Torview Avenue, up on the other side of Wiriel Hill. And there's one B&B that was to rent. So I went and sat there for most of the weekend, just sitting there meditating. A week later, a flat came available in Glastonbury, and it was in the room underneath the one where I'd been meditating. Very interesting, very interesting. And that's where I'm living now. The experience then now is not so much chasing down manifestation, but it's sitting in this and letting it land. And that, to me, is how we then shape and create from the true self that we're fully coming to. And so this tremendous shift that is going on right now, it is going to challenge every element of the full self. It's going to confront you with every single thing you'd rather not confront. And really challenge us to let go and integrate through these shifts of something like them, and then come into this, an embodied form of the torus, and then wait for creation or watch creation landing and just reaching out and letting it land, wherever that is, whether that's how you live, relationship, how you work. That's the new, what I would reflect, is the new form of manifestation and creation that we're coming to. So that's what I believe the shift is leading us to. And then we'll be in a higher dimensional form of this, on a higher dimensional form of the planet. I believe that's what we're coming to. And so the 5 gateways, someone in our community did this wonderful image a couple of days ago. The 5 gateways, then, to me, lead us to that embodiment. Or something like it. Look, it's not a rigid dogma or a religion. It's just saying this depicts reasonably well what many people, thousands of people around the world are beginning to experience or have, deep experiences of these. The 5 gateways. So that is written about in the 5 Gateways book. It's in the 5 Gateways movie, which is free on YouTube. You saw a clip of it. So go and check it out if you feel interested in it. Then go and check it out. And it's there to give you the sense of what you may encounter on the journey and how other people are dealing with it when they do. What happens when you get Kundalini activation? What happens when karma triggers? What happens when inner child, inner teenager identities fire off? What happens then? So that's why we shared it. That's what we put it together for. That is the 5 gateways as we see it, perceive it. Now, interestingly, just before I take questions, interestingly, when you're sitting in this, you get this, a lot of people are starting to feel it, this kind of spiraling, swirling experience. And it seems very similar to what people describe as Kundalini or Kundalini activation. And literally they'll be sitting in meditation and they're swaying. Or they're feeling a huge density, because this is very dense. It's not just higher vibrations, but there's a great density to it. So a lot of people feel that when they come into it. So that is something like, or it provides a metaphor or a template for what a lot of people are coming to. And so we share it in this community, in the Openhand work, in order to give people a sense of what they're likely to be journeying through or what they're working with right now. That's the purpose of us sharing it. What I'd like to do is conclude with a meditation. What I'd like to do, because there's a good volume of consciousness here in the room, I'd like to get a sense of that, see if we can get a sense of that. So that's how I'd suggest we conclude. And for those who want to stay, it'll be about 10 minutes. Okay. So just bring your attention then into the breath. And breathing firstly from the back of the throat with the mouth open like this. And as you breathe, just noticing the change internally. And then close the mouth, tongue in the top of the mouth, inhaling through the nose, but inhaling from the back of the throat. So you create this vibrational feeling from the back of the throat. So you're basically lowering the jaw to get that deep sense of inhaling breath. Now, because you're breathing from the back of the throat, that sets up a vibrational resonance up and down the spine, through the chakras. And so we can transcend the breath and pay attention to the sense feeling of the soul. So the breath is an activator for the soul. Felt as lightness, timelessness, interconnectivity, joy, lightness. Now, as you inhale then, the consciousness is tending to want to rise from the base, through the body, through the chest, the throat, the head, above the crown. Then just hold the breath above the crown and feel the expansion. Just as long as it's comfortable without efforting. And as you exhale, gently, softly, breathing the sense of that lightness down through your body all the way to the base. And hold in the base. When you hold in the base, feel the sense of the physical, but the sense of it becoming more wave-like, less solid. As you're breathing now, just the sense of you as the witnessing aspect, intimate with the experience, but allowing the experience to happen. Noticing what that feels like. It's quite a beautiful expansion going on in the room. As you inhale from the base, the sense that there's an ascending anti-clockwise spiral up through your body, through your neck and head, above the crown. You hold, and then on the out breath, there's a descending clockwise spiral. All the way down to the base. Ascending anti-clockwise, descending clockwise. As you inhale, exhale, just let the body, don't worry about the spiraling, but just let the body sway as you inhale, exhale. Sway in its own way, with its own frequency. The presence through it all, the witnesser, the seer, breathing sway is happening. Knowing your connection with the divine, all that is, inviolable connection. And now I'd like you to, as you're sitting here feeling this, contemplate a situation in your life that needs more clarity right now. Whether it's relationship, whether it's where you're living, how you're working, whether it's material resources. I'd like you to contemplate something which is important to you right now that you'd like clarity on. See the situation, the imagery involved, who else might be involved. Feel it. If there's any tightness in relation to it, then put your attention in the tightness and let go. go of the need for an outcome. Let go of the need for a resolution. Accept rightness will be created. Feel the unraveling, feel the unwinding. Complete sense of surrender and letting go. Now come into the heart. Open the heart, the sense of opening the heart. And then call out internally, show me, show me. And now immediately after this, and the days that follow, watching for what your attention is drawn to. And here's a big clue. Mostly, it will be about how to be in that situation. Whether more surrendered, whether more forthright, whether more diplomatic, whether allowing a sense of magic. It'll be these kinds of things: adventure, joy, love, how to be in it. You'll get reflections in nature, you'll get reflections in signs and synchronicity. You can be sure when you orientate to how to be, the whole of the universe conspires to help you, because that's what it's doing. Actualizing beingness. And from that, crystallizing, manifesting, effortlessly, without intention. So trusting then, the answers are there, they already were, we just weren't necessarily looking in the right place or the right way. How is the situation inviting you to be? Work to be that, and it will transform. Trust in that. Okay. In a moment, opening the eyes, but before you do, just be clear, be sure that you're connected, settled back into the torus, the feeling sense of that. Just going to play a little track to accentuate the feeling of being in that deep, reverent, divine beingness. Just feel it. Just gently relaxing, getting ready to open your eyes. But before you do, being sure you're connected, centered within. And so as the eyes begin to open, even though the external comes back in, you're still very much connected on the internal. Feeling that, centered in that. Thank you for being a part of that. It's beautiful to feel the collective energy. Thank you. Those two. And two. Okay. Thank you so much for coming. It's been a real privilege and a pleasure to connect with you energetically. Brief but very meaningful. These are profound times of tremendous change. As much as you feel challenged, I know we all do, every single one of us, in relationships and how we live and work, especially, even though we're really challenged, know this: you chose it. We chose it. We chose to be here at this time because it is the maximum growth opportunity available to us. Reality is going through this humongous transformation, and that offers tremendous opportunity for growth as a soul. It's the same for the younger ones who may have come here only for a few years. Nevertheless, they chose it too, because it's a phenomenal opportunity. I celebrate you, I honor you, I wish you every success on your journey. Let's keep shining the light, let's keep digging deep, let's keep unraveling, and we'll be unraveling the planet as we go. Phenomenal. Thank you. Thank you.